The shooting range. In this episode, pages of history, a mysterious heli with a new engine. Special, our traditional tour around the new map. And metal beasts on a borrowed head. It's time to meet the new vehicles brought to you by Alpha Strike. We decided to start with the most unusual new tank. When you look at it, you can't help but wonder, what the hell is this? But the military powers of the world created so many such hybrids, it's not even funny anymore. The name of this offspring is the M60 120S. You've probably recognized its parents already. The hull comes from the late modifications of the M60, albeit with extra side screens. The turret and the armament come from the M1A1 Abrams. One thing we can't ignore in this mix, the hull and the turret have almost the same length, so the vehicle looks pretty disproportional. Now, wait a minute. This tank completes the set. The STRV-74 had a mishap with elevator doors, the Object 775 was smashed when someone dropped something on it, and this one probably crashed into something. Dream Team, assemble! Okay, jokes aside. Time to see its combat prowess. The main advantage of this tank is the main caliber of an Abrams. The two-plane stabilized 120mm cannon can shoot discarding sabot shells with a penetration rate of almost 600mm. Add to this a high reload rate and a large first-stage ammo storage, and you get one of the best weapons at this battle rating. It can also boast good depression angles, high gun traverse rate, thermals, and a laser rangefinder. Basically, it has everything it might ever need. As for armor, it's both very good and non-existent at the same time. The nature of this duality is defined right between the parts coming from the Abrams and the M60. The turret can reliably shrug off the most widespread shells at this BR. The only vulnerable part is the mantlet, which is true for most tanks. Now, the hull. Well, the M60 part of this tank can probably withstand autocannon fire, although some might still damage it. Armor-piercing tank shells and ATGMs simply ignore it altogether. The turret ring is extra vulnerable. It's so huge a plane might fly through it. Only 70mm of armor protect 3 out of 4 crew members, which isn't reassuring either. Mobility is even less hopeful. This tank has an engine with 750 horsepower, capable of pushing these 56 tons of metal to a whopping 48 kilometers an hour. It takes a while even on a flat surface, and don't even expect to reach the top speed in a real fight. Well, with all these pros and cons in mind, here's the tactics we can see for it. The M60 120S is a poor choice for rushing or flanking. It can't reflect incoming rounds in the front lines either. Where it shines, though, is role-playing a gun emplacement, preferably in a position where you can hide the hull and the turret ring. That's when it can show the true power of its new head. A heated argument among aviation experts and enthusiasts has been going on for more than half a century now. It all began with Westland, a British company, obtaining a license to produce the American H-19 Chickasaw helicopters. The company took a pretty creative approach to the aircraft, and some would even call it too much. At the time, most engineers were fairly sure that to use a turboshaft engine, you needed to design an entirely new helicopter. Westland engineers did the opposite. They threw the 14-cylinder piston engines out of the H-19 and managed to put in turbines instead. They performed an even more impressive trick with the H-34 Choctaw. Britain didn't even try to make the piston engine model, switching to turboshaft right away and designating the licensed machine the Wessex. The original American makers only chuckled at this British peculiarity, until they found out that the helicopter lost all the vibration that used to drive the crews mad, became faster, and more reliable. Actually, it got so reliable that the Royal Navy saw fit to use the Wessex in the open seas as an anti-submarine helicopter. Even the Marines employed it in their operations. That's why the idea of converting the H-34 to use turboshaft engines was quickly adopted in Australia and Canada. Other countries too showed an interest towards these machines, not so American anymore. And that's where the mystery begins. Question 1. Why did the British even need it in the first place? New-gen helicopters equipped with turboshaft engines by design were right around the corner. Why even bother? After World War II, the warehouses had tens of thousands of piston engines. They were basically sold by weight, a bit more expensive than scrap. Gasoline was also cheap during those times. Was the switch even worth it? Turboshaft engines are much more sophisticated and expensive. No matter what answer you find, you'll get a dozen counter-arguments. Question number 2. Why did no one repeat that trick with the engines? Say the Soviet Union and their Mi-4? The USSR needed a tremendous number of such helicopters, both for military and civil use. The Mi-8 was a 4-ton chopper and thus too expensive for many applications, while the Mi-2 obviously lacked capacity. Still, until the day it was finally retired, the Mi-4 always used its ancient ASH-82, same as the one installed on the LA-5. The only attempt to fit Canadian turboshaft engines into the Mi-4 happened in China in the 1970s, but led nowhere. Again, no matter what answer you find, you'll see plenty of counterpoints, and each of those is just as questionable as the next. And finally, question 3. British sailors flew their Wessex choppers all the way until 2003 and flatly refused to give them up, even despite the fact that new machines surpassed this grandfather clock on every front. Still, the good old Wessex could offer good maneuverability, a simple design, and easy maintenance, but most importantly, a unique level of reliability that's so crucial on the open seas. But if you mention this while talking to an aviation expert, you can expect a whole bunch of counterpoints. And thus, the argument continues. Having introduced a new vehicle, we think it's now time to have a nice little walk around a new ground location called North Holland. You might recognize the landscape this time around. Our artists were inspired by Zaandam and used the layout of one of the most popular maps in War Thunder, Eastern Europe. That's why you can recognize the river bend, the bridge locations, the spawn and capture points in their places, as well as the main and flanking attack lines. Still, this map isn't a carbon copy of the old one, so let's give it a look. North Holland comes in no less than 6 variants for 3 game modes. Today we'd like to tour the biggest version, Domination number 2. In the west part, you can see hills of green grass. It's a good place for fast vehicles to flank the town and hide from enemy fire in the landscape. It also gives a picturesque view of a charming European town full of small houses with slanted roofs. Moving on towards the center, we see one of the main urban features of this location, a large shopping mall hiding the first strategic area within itself. Watch out before you drive inside. Many of the walls are damaged and weakened, so heavy vehicles can knock them down and start a close quarters combat to your complete surprise. Or to their own surprise. It depends. Moving past the mall, we find a canal that crosses the town. It has a higher bank than the one in Eastern Europe, so players can use this water body as a quick route around the center or as a temporary shelter. The waters are pretty shallow, so even the smallest vehicles can easily cross it. Still, we don't want to get our tracks wet, so we'll use a bridge. The map is free of hostiles for now, so the bridges are safe. Now that we're on the east side, we need to visit the main site of this town. It's a majestic Baroque cathedral, soaring above the neighboring buildings and piercing the skies with a long spire. Architecture enthusiasts will probably recognize the real-life prototype that inspired our artists. The second strategic area is nearby. It offers no cover save for a single fountain in the middle. Even so, it can only save you from a single shot. This means that you need to clear the entire area before trying to take control over this point. There's also a block nearby with a small alley that shines an intriguing red light on the nearby houses. Maybe we should visit this place when the sun goes down to take some atmospheric pictures. Let's move further east, past the gas station, and leave the town. This place is less inspiring, with simple and somewhat boring housing. At least it feels that way after the rich architecture of the old town. But that's where the third and final strategic point is waiting for us. Some of the buildings can offer corners as good shelters, but don't expect a fast capture, because this place can be attacked from multiple directions at once. From this place all the way to the horizon, it's all open space, with green fields, scattered villages, and busy wind turbines. What do you think of this new location? Tell us in the comments while we answer some of your questions. The first question was sent by a player called GigioDream. Why doesn't the A4E have air spawn if it's a strike aircraft? Will it get it? Hi GigioDream. Starting with rank 6, aircraft of all classes spawn on the ground in realistic air battles. Otherwise, some strike aircraft would get an advantage that'd make them more efficient than some fighters. Alguem asks, what's the difference between the Type 74E and F? Hi there. The only difference is the opportunity to add a dozer blade. The rest is basically the same. Another question comes from Feldsanitator 3750. Why is the Abrams not symmetrical? Hello! At closer inspection, you can see that almost all military vehicles are asymmetrical. You see, the main goal of military designs isn't beauty. It's efficiency, functionality, rational use of internal space, convenient use, and maintenance. Speaking of the Abrams, on one side of the cannon there are seats for the gunner and the commander, who don't really need to move much, while the other side is occupied by the loader, who needs to constantly turn their body in a tight space with a large shell in their hands. Snug Beach Gaming writes, what's the best Chinese MBT? Hey there, we'd probably look at either the VT4 or the WZ-1001. The former has an active protection system that can sometimes save it from an HEGM, while the latter can offer an extended barrel and a higher penetration rate. In actual combat, they offer very similar efficiency. And the last comment for today was written by Quandale Dingle. For the F4S, do you recommend taking a fuel drop tank or an external gun pod? I can't decide. Hi Quandale, this Phantom has no built-in cannons, so we'd go for the gun pod. As for fuel, the internal tanks have enough for most battles anyway. That's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. Don't forget to keep your keyboard safe from your cat, leave a like, share your thoughts and comments, and see you next week.